the pacemaker was helping with the sickness. Hello. Well, hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Sophie. So for today's video I am doing a much requested video, and that is a gastroparesis update slash journey. I have been asked to do this video for literally the past like 4 years, and I have just never done it. And if you don't know what gastroparesis is, I will leave the link to the video I did all about what gastroparesis is in the description box below. Now, just a little backstory from all the way backtracking from the beginning of my journey. I was someone who loved my food, and it all kind of happened quite quickly. The diagnosis side, not so much, but the onset of gastroparesis happened quite quickly. Now, I did the Camp America scheme in 2011 and I absolutely loved it. I was fine, I ate a lot. So when I came back from Camp America, all my problems started then. I went backwards and forwards to doctors. I had doctors tell me, nope, there's nothing wrong. Nope, it's anorexia, bulimia. Are you sure she's not making it up? I've had doctors actually turn around to my mum and say, do you think she is lying? During this year I had a lot of tests. I had a lot of people just tell us to go away basically. I had second opinions. I was thrown between doctors and appointments, and not very much was really done that was useful. I was then finally sent to a doctor who was a specialist in gastroparesis and diagnosed me like that. He did the gastric emptying study, which is what showed up my gastroparesis, and from then he then put in my first nasal jejunal tube, or an NJ tube, and that went in on the 11th of July 2012, so this is already a year later. That was as a trial to see if my body would tolerate tube feeding, which it did, although it wasn't very comfortable, but I also didn't know what to expect. They just kind of shoved it in about a week after my diagnosis, and then a week after having the NJ tube they put in a PEG-J tube, which is very similar to an NJ tube. It just goes through the stomach wall. It still bypasses the tummy. I didn't get on too well with this, and at the time we didn't know why, but I would just get a lot of skin granulation and pain. I was just getting infection after infection, and it was causing me more problems. So that came out in the December. However, before they agreed to take that out and take me off feeding, they did put the pacemaker in. Now, I was very lucky with my process for the pacemaker. We didn't have to argue too much in compared to what I know some people do go through. The 30th of October 2012, that is when I had the pacemaker put in. I did do a vlog on my journey of getting the pacemaker put in, so I will also leave that link in the description box below. Over the next year they didn't really do all that much because it was primarily for pacemaker adjustments. There's a lot of different changes that they do, so within this time they don't want to do too much, otherwise they don't know what it is that's helping. They want to do one thing at a time. So it was almost a year later when things then started to take a bit of a turn again, I guess. On the 11th of November I was admitted again for fluids to A&E, and at that point they actually admitted me to do an ultrasound and an endoscopy again because things just weren't improving. They were still getting worse. Although the sickness side of stuff was better with the pacemaker, the bloating and the eating and the pain wasn't great. A couple of weeks later, or I think a week later, the 27th of November I had another NJ tube fitted, and I think this was partially their decision and partially mine. For me, having an NJ tube put in was kind of my break from having to attempt to eat stuff and then have the results after. It was like a break for me mentally and for my body physically. The 1st of March I was really unwell with a throat and lung infection, so basically the tube got blocked. It kept dislodging because I was trying to bring up everything that was inside of my system, and my throat was really sore from where I had the throat infection, so they did take the tube out, but it was only for a few days because then on the 4th of March it was replaced. Within this time I did have a pain specialist at the Royal Free Hospital where my specialist was under, and I don't like to bad mouth doctors, and I don't actually remember this doctor's name. He really wasn't very nice. Now, whilst he was saying potentially what he thought was true, he just was not willing to help. He clearly didn't know anything about gastroparesis, and this basically messed with my mind and just made me want to give up, because he basically told me there's nothing we can do for you, you just have to live with it. I know there's not anything they can actually do for gastroparesis. There are things he could have at least tried. Moving on to June of 2014, so between March and June I was referred to a pain specialist who I am still under and I am eternally grateful for. June of 2014 he tried me on spinal block injections. Now these are like local anaesthetic injections that he did into my back, around like the middle of the back where your ribs area are, which is where I get my pain. And he did a few sessions of those with slightly different dosages, and they made my stomach go numb for maybe an hour, but they really didn't do that much. At this point I was also given a medication called fentanyl, which I don't know if you've heard of, but it is quite a strong medication, and it was to try and help with the pain. However, it just made me very sleepy. So whilst I guess technically you can see that as helping with pain, I couldn't get on with my life, so it wasn't really achieving what we needed to do. It was just making me sleepy, and it was causing a lot of ulcers inside of my mouth. And then we fast forward again to October, where they decided to take the NJ tube out. I was at a stable weight because of the NJ tube, so they took that out at the beginning of October, and they also turned off the pacemaker because they wanted to trial me on something called the vagus nerve stimulator, which is essentially kind of like the pacemaker, but this one was a little machine that you put on your neck, and it, like, you get told where the vagus nerve is, because the vagus nerve obviously goes through your stomach but runs up through your neck and into your brain. And so they trialed me on that, and it didn't really work. Like, it helped for maybe like the first week, and then like just all of the effects just wore off. For me, I found the pacemaker was a lot better, because this one didn't really do anything for the sickness, so my sickness levels kind of went backwards. So the pacemaker was then turned back on in the December. Then, as a nice early Christmas present, my body decided to give me a really nasty kidney infection, which saw me extremely unwell, and I had to have 2 rounds of antibiotics to get rid of it. At this time I was being trialled on a ton of different diets, and I started a gluten-free diet in the beginning of January. So December we kind of let my body heal from the infection, get through Christmas, because doctors don't work Christmas, so you can't be ill over Christmas. I started the gluten-free diet, which initially helped massively. I do still primarily have a gluten-free diet, however in the February my eating then went back downhill, and anytime you have a bad period of time with eating, it affects you mentally as well, which then affects you even more physically, and it's just a really vicious cycle. In the October of 2015, so fast forward to like the end of the year pretty much, I was sent to a new specialist who was a gastroenterologist and really specialises in gastroparesis, and he suspected that there was more going on than just the gastroparesis, and turns out he was right. This is where the first mentions of POTS, or orthostatic intolerance, mast cell activation, EDS, all of those kind of ones were initiated from him, whilst my pain specialist mentioned it like as a passing by comment, or my mum saw it online. This is the first time that a doctor was really like, I highly suspect that you have other conditions going on, and they also need managing before you have any chance of managing gastroparesis, basically. And this is actually where my lightheadedness spells all really started to get bad, particularly in the November onwards. It really became a problem. Every time I was eating, not only was I getting pain, I was also going really lightheaded, so that meant my eating was getting even worse because, again, like I said, it affects you mentally, and I didn't want to be eating and causing everyone around me all this like hurt. I don't want to put them through all of this added extra, and I don't want to be put through it either. And it was in the 15th of December that the EDS, or Ehlers-Danlos, was diagnosed. But EDS and gastroparesis are very closely linked, which is why I thought I would include it, because that is where they think my gastroparesis has stemmed from. There's nothing they can do for EDS. Again, it is just management, and something that is very hard to get a handle on, especially over the winter. When I was actually looking through all of these dates that my mum had written down, I noticed that a lot of my gastroparesis flare-ups are at this time of the year. 25th of December, Christmas morning at like 2 AM in the morning. Merry Christmas. I was taken to ambulance. I was taken to A&E by ambulance because I was fainting left, right and centre. Give me a slice of smoked salmon, I'd eat it and I'd faint like 10 minutes later. Give me a cup of water, I would be on the floor fainting or like lightheaded, and I'm just not there. It got really bad. So I was taken in by ambulance Christmas morning, told to go home because they think that I need to see my specialist, but obviously no specialist is around until after Christmas. So basically told to just suck it up and get on with it. The fainting, the lightheadedness all continued through Christmas, through the whole of New Year, and I saw a POTS specialist in London in the January time, and that is when I had orthostatic intolerance diagnosed. Basically, my body can't control its blood pressure, so it's either shooting up, shooting down, and they thought that when I was eating, all the blood was rushing to my stomach to try and deal with the digesting all of that, because that was taking more blood to do, because it wasn't doing it right because of the gastroparesis. In the February to April time, I started getting really itchy after eating. They tried me on antihistamines. They thought it was like a reaction to certain foods. I had to try dairy free, back onto completely gluten free. That then ended up me having like fit-like things. After I ate, I would go lightheaded, and then I would suddenly start having what looked like a fit or a seizure. Why does that sound wrong in my head? My family around me saw it. My younger sister saw it, my younger brother saw it, my parents saw it, and it's not very nice. And so again, my eating got even worse. In the April, like middle to end of April, I had another NJ tube fitting, and this was the worst experience of my life. Now by this point I've already had like 3, 4, maybe 5 NJ tubes. This was the worst. This doctor, I don't remember his name, I've probably like blocked out on purpose, but this doctor just didn't understand. Now, if you know what EDS is, or you have EDS, you will know that EDS and local anaesthetics don't work very well. I would have to be put under sedation or general, or have like 10 times the amount of local anaesthetic. This doctor didn't want to listen. He told me he didn't feel safe doing that, even though it's in my notes that it's all okay. Basically, it was take it or leave it as a local anaesthetic on a small dose. So I'm desperate, obviously, we just have to go and do it. So he puts the local anaesthetic in, nothing happens as we knew it wouldn't. I'm still completely with it. Having a camera shoved down your throat, when you have a tube and a camera down your throat and up your nose, now, no. I felt like I couldn't breathe, and when you feel like you can't breathe, you get very worked up and you get very anxious. And he told me to calm down, and he told me to stop being dramatic, and that if I didn't calm down, he wasn't going to do the tube. That was that. And I was like, well, I'm not leaving until you do it, so you better do it, and I suggest that you give me another dose because I'm fully there. He agreed to like the tiniest amount more, which again didn't do anything. I just had to suck it up. But luckily the nurse was really nice and she like supported me through it. However, 21st of April, go to use a tube before, wouldn't work from day one. 21st, they find out that it's blocked and it's blocked and kinked. So it's kinked up, and then when we have tried to use it, it's obviously caused a blockage because it can't get through. So they have to take it out. At this point in my head, A, I was not ready to go through that procedure again in case I got him. But B, they wanted to try me without it. So the April all the way through to the October, the fainting, the lightheadedness, the fitting, all of it still continued, and they couldn't really figure out how to stop it. I was in and out of consciousness the whole time. I was being sent home from work, which anyone that knows me like personally will know I have work, like I don't leave work. My blood pressure was going like over 100. I was back and forth in ambulance to A&E. My mum was finding me unconscious on the floor, on my bed. My brother was walking in finding me unconscious. I am very grateful for my dog at this point because he would always like alert my family if I was passing out or having a fit or anything like that. This is where they started me on a medication called midodrine, which is what it was for the orthostatic intolerance, but in turn would potentially help my eating because my blood pressure would be controlled a bit more when I was eating, so it wouldn't all sink down to my stomach. I started on the midodrine and it started really well. It was doing quite well for a while, and then they upped the dose because it was wearing off a bit too fast. And about 5 days after raising the dosage, I was really unwell for an entire week. I was sent home from work. I didn't remember being at work. I was just in and out of consciousness. My blood sugars were too low, like everything was just completely spiraling. And at this point they actually took all of my medication off, like they stripped back my medication because of my medication had just built up. They think it was a combination of how many medications I was on and the midodrine it was too much for my wee little body to handle. My pain specialist stripped everything back and just kept me on the ones that we all felt between us were the most important and were the ones doing the most. In January 2017, so the beginning of this year, we really focused on ketamine. Now, I had been on ketamine for I think the year before this as well. I was on very small dosages. We weren't that focused on it because of everything else going on. The pain element wasn't, we couldn't tell how the pain was because of the lightheadedness and the fainting. And that is kind of where we're at now. We have tried a lot of different pain medications like opioids, we have tried anti-epileptics, pain patches, you name it. I have probably tried it. It is something that is a newer drug in terms of using it in this way. To me, it is the drug that has made the most difference for my pain. Now we have played around with dosages, with how often I have it, like all of that kind of thing, and we still are. Ketamine has helped my daytime pain pretty much go away, more or less. Girly time, that just messes with everything. My pain after eating, is better. I'm not rolling around on the floor anymore and I can stand on my feet with support. It has helped a lot. It takes the edge off that when I breathe after eating, I don't feel like I'm going to pass out through pain. And that is currently where I am. My eating at the moment, if I'm honest, is not great. I kind of feel like life almost gets in the way of eating because if I want to do anything or go anywhere, I just won't eat my food. Like I won't eat dinner. I'll just graze on rubbish food, and whilst grazing is a good way to go forward with gastroparesis because it's meant to be small and often, probably not eating the right stuff small and often. And in terms of like an update for my pacemaker, it helps the sickness, not so much the pain, but we knew that going into it. So if you are looking into the pacemaker, just be aware of that. If you did like this video, and I'm happy that I did it, be sure to give it a thumbs up so that I know. If you have any questions that I didn't answer, then just let me know in the comments below or on any of my social media. All of my links are in the description box below. If you're not already, please be sure to subscribe. My goal is 500 by Christmas. I don't know if we can do it. I'm hoping we can, so if you want to help, that would be amazing and I would really appreciate it. And until next time, keep watching, stay strong and stay safe. Bye guys.